to Adamo Gallery Presents Behind the Canvas. I'm Sophie.
I'm Rich.
And I'm Michelle.
So today we've got the lovely Michelle Mackie with us. So Michelle is a digital artist and a photographer. Her work's been described as ethereal and magical, and she's very well known for her well thought out concepts and symbolism behind all of her artworks. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and sit with us.
Oh, I feel funny.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So obviously we launched your spring collection yesterday in the gallery. We had a little show, a little shindig. So we thought that maybe you could come down today. We'll have a chat about your work, what makes your work so complex and conceptual, and have a chat about your spring collection. So we've got a few questions.
Okay.
They're not crazy or intimidating, I promise. So yeah, we'll just have a little chat, won't we?
Lovely.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm not sure whether you've heard, but did you watch the first podcast that we did? Have you seen little bits of that?
I've seen bits of it.
Well, Soph likes to do this thing where she claims that artists, normally it's that they're Welsh. So she likes to bring...
I did hear the Welsh.
Yeah.
All the
Normally
Welsh
she kind of
artists.
claims English artists as being Welsh, but for some reason you're Scottish. So for the last 18 months, we've been telling people...
I've gone literally the other side of the country.
I'm no good at accents either.
I don't know where she got it from.
Could you not do a, oh hi,
No!
I'm Michelle.
I just sound like a pirate.
Pirates are good. Adds to the mystique, the mystery. So yeah, for the past 18 months, I may have told everybody that you're Scottish.
I'm Scottish. Okay.
So I
I'll claim it.
apologise.
And I'm not sure where that came from, but could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm not Scottish.
No, obviously
Perfect.
not.
Yes, great. Sorry, everybody.
Where did you grow up then?
I'm an Essex girl. I'm from Southend-on-Sea, sunny Southend, and I've lived there all my life.
The opposite from Scotland.
Yeah. And yeah, just that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you love it there?
Yeah, it's all the people I love there. So
Yeah.
I'm a true Essex girl.
Yeah.
I love it.
But that's a good thing, although it's not portrayed always as a good thing. But yeah, it's.
You're proud of your roots and who you are.
Yeah,
and that's the most important.
who I am. I'm down to earth. I am what I am, and what you see is what you get.
I love that though.
Good.
We like that, don't we?
Yeah.
But back to your childhood then. Did art play much impact in your childhood?
I was always pretty creative as a kid. I was always making things, making up stories. My nan used to call me Dolly Daydream, which is where the nickname Dolly
is that where Dolly came from? Oh,
yeah.
wow, okay.
And I think the biggest thing with me was I always struggled academically.
Oh.
So pictures were what got my imagination going, and I just loved stories with pictures. And I remember as a little girl sitting with I spent a lot of time with my nan and granddad. And I mean, they used to claim me as theirs all the time.
Aww.
But who I absolutely adored. But my granddad would sit with all these photo albums and all these old black and white pictures and showing me pictures of when he was in Japan in the army and telling me all the stories about his mates and all these,
Oh, wow.
glamorous like 40s, 50s women and who they were. And the whole texture of the black and white pictures and the stories behind them. And I was just fascinated, loved it.
Was it like almost another world?
Yeah. It was just transporting somewhere else.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was the same, I think, because I got an early memory in school where the teacher got me to read out in front of the class, and I stumbled on the words that I was reading, and then ever since then I was just terrified for like about 3 or 4 years. I was terrified of reading aloud. I think it put me off it, so I was just so drawn to pictures and to imagery and that side of things, and I think it pushes you in a certain direction as well, I think, doesn't it? It kind of changes your brain.
Definitely, but it wasn't until later on that when I had my son that I realised, and through problems he had at school, that we realised I am severely dyslexic.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I couldn't read I could read, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't enjoyable. It was hard
Yeah.
work, and it wasn't the same. So that's obviously why I see things very differently.
Yeah. So you didn't know that when you were a kid?
No, it was there was nothing. They didn't do anything for it then. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just thought maybe I was a bit thick.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's bad, isn't it? It's horrible, isn't it? But that was the case, though, wasn't it? It was like, I remember, like, when I was younger, there used to be like the kind of the corner that like, the kids that weren't that bright used to sit in.
The extra sets
you wouldn't
of
get that. Like, it's
English and all
terrible, isn't
that,
it?
yeah.
It's like because that just
And then you get put in with all the naughty kids.
yeah, and it kind of
Yeah.
And it's easier just to go a bit wild.
Play up
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
isn't
definitely.
it?
Yeah.
And I suppose as well, going back to like actual visual images, we were chatting with a lady yesterday and she made a really good point that a picture is everything that a story has condensed itself into.
Yeah.
So you immediately get something from an image that you would have to spend hours reading a book to get.
And different people get different things
Yeah.
as well.
it speaks 1,000 words.
A painting speaks
There you
1,000
go.
words, everybody. You heard it here first.
So did you leave school with a creative drive, or was it?
Art was the only thing that I was going to do exams in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't end up doing any exams. So I
Okay.
had to go to work at 15. I had to
Oh,
get
wow.
a job.
No way.
So I was working. I took on a nursing. I come from a broken home, and it was a case of I had to work. I had to
So
survive.
you didn't get a choice in
So I
that,
didn't. There was never any talk of college or anything like that
Yeah.
to further like education. I went into nursing, and I ended up doing that for a few years. And I went and did my nursing training, first year's training. But then I did a lot of travelling. I lived in Australia for a while.
Wow.
Did some travelling, and then ended up falling in love.
As we all do.
And when I had my daughter, I thought, I've got to do something else for a job. I can't, So I went back to college and trained as a beautician. And I did that for a long time.
Ah, amazing.
Yeah, I trained in like aromatherapy and all holistic remedies and all that kind of thing.
Oh, I love that as well.
But in the background, I used to make jewellery. I used to do potions and lotions, and I was always being creative, doing something.
Yeah, it was like an urge that you couldn't
Yeah.
fight almost.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So then, was there anybody or anything that inspired you to pick up a camera as such? I know you mentioned your granddad.
It was
earlier.
always in the background. It's something I always wanted to do. Before I left school, my project, which was going to be for my exams, was with photography. It was with an old-fashioned. It was all film then. The dark room. I just loved it. But life got busy, and it just got in the way. And it wasn't till just before my granddad died, actually, and he gave me a little bit of money, not a lot, but it was like, you need to spend this on you, not the kids, nothing else. And after he died, I thought, I'm going to go and buy my camera.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know how to turn it on or anything else. But I thought and that's where that started.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I saw that you did a few like things with bands as well. You did like
I did well.
couple
First
of band covers.
first of all, it was very different to what I do now. I was doing a lot of portraiture work, creative portraitures with models and like professional models. And when I started releasing pictures online under the name Dolly, because I was a bit scared to put my real name on there, I was getting requests from lots of people to collaborate with and to do work with, and I went to lots of lovely places and did some quite weird and wonderful portraits and stuff, and obviously I've got a younger brother who's a musician who travels all round, so I'm very connected to that side of things. So I ended up doing album covers, book covers.
that's what I've seen.
Working with bands, which was great because they'd literally just give me a theme and say, go for it.
So you could be as creative as you wanted to be.
I got really creative with bands. Like one of them, we went to a field with a dining room table, a whole dining room furniture, and had like a tea party, like a Mad Hatter's tea party in the middle of a field with this band, and there was flying clocks everywhere. And,
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that where the this style of work that you do currently, is that where that kind of started? Is it? Because I noticed when I look back to
The
your
black
work
and white
that
stuff,
kind of,
which I don't show so much now, but it started getting really creative. And then when I got asked to do like album covers, that's when colour came in.
okay.
So that's when I started
So you
using...
weren't initially drawn to the colour?
No,
then? It was only
it was always
'cause
the black
somebody
and white.
asked
Yeah.
about, yeah. Okay.
And then I kind of... There was always a little bit of a shock and a wow factor. I was like, yeah, I need to do more stuff like this. So yeah, I just sort of took time out to learn a few skills and how I could make it happen.
Yeah, so you're completely self-taught
Yeah,
then?
yeah. I mean, I did a little adult evening course just to show me the buttons on the camera. But from there, it was like, yeah, just I photographed anything and everything just to get to know the camera until I outgrew it and then bought a better one.
Oh, wow.
So your early days must have just been so filled with experimenting and
I went. It started off because there was. It was a bit like therapy, really, because I had a bit of a hard time for a while. In a space of 5 years, I lost a lot of family, like my nephew, my mum, my brother, my granddad, all of them.
Oh my gosh.
And on top of that, a divorce.
Oh, God.
Which was like my whole world just crumbled and I wasn't coping well and my mental health was not good. And to be honest, this was a way of releasing all that.
Was it quite cathartic almost?
It was very therapeutic.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like we were saying, it was a lot darker. That you can see the emotions pouring. Now I look back, I can see where they've come from.
Yeah. It must almost be like a journal then.
Yeah.
When you go from your very first pieces that were published and then you see how dark they were, it must kind of trigger memories and make you think.
It is a journey because a lot of them I really resonate with and it's all about expressing an emotion or a feeling. So yeah, definitely.
Oh, wow.
Because I noticed in your early work, you can really see that. You can see the darker themes. But
don't get me wrong, I did also like the shock factor and making people uncomfortable.
Did you really?
I did.
It's a big thing in art, though, isn't it?
I did.
So, yeah.
I did. When I was playing around with the camera, when I was very much learning like the digital side of it, because it takes a long time to learn all that. So I was very much playing. I joined a little camera club. And they're lovely and they embrace me, but they'd say, Michelle, competition time, what you got? And so they either loved it or they was like, oh my God, what is that?
But that's amazing.
Shock factor.
Yeah.
But it evoked an emotion.
And that's what
whether
art
it's good
should
or
do.
bad. Yeah, absolutely.
It should. I always say to clients that art could always act like an icebreaker. If you've got a really interesting or statement piece in your room, say in your dining room, for instance, and somebody comes in and they're like, wow, it's all right for you to be a bit shocked or uncomfortable from it.
It's a conversation piece.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
That's so interesting that you like to kind of provoke as well.
I like to see what other people think, and their interpretations, because they can be very different to yours.
Yeah, of course. Well, art's so subjective,
Yeah.
isn't it? Everybody's got their own ideas and connotations as to what's important to them or what means something to them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think photography is a really good medium to showcase that as well, because it is so visual. It is what you see as well. So how did the steps go then from you becoming a self-taught photographer to then becoming a published artist?
When I was working with a lot of the models and everything, I had work like the more creative black and white images before I went onto the cover. I had images published in Vogue and in magazines.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And abroad, So I did a lot of different stuff. I had pictures published in Dark Beauty in America and different kind of creative outlets. And then once I sort of found my niche with my colours and my people and photographing every aspect of it was just finding out how to do what I wanted. I suppose it's the same journey as what you went. It's finding yourself, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
your own style. And once I did that, and it's just
sometimes it takes a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes people never really get there, but
it just evolved. And when I found this, and my friends was like, "You need to show these to people. You can't, what are you doing?" And it was like under a fact, no one knew who I was. And and it's funny because it's once you get in that creative circle, people are like, "Well, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is she?
They take note of you.
Yeah. So I thought, I've got to start, putting my face forward. And I started competitions and magazines, and I'd been approached by a local gallery to put some work in, and I knew Alan, the printer for Wishbone, and went and said I want to get some framed. So he took me to the warehouse to get some framed at the headquarters.
Oh, yeah.
And I happened to bump into Glenn.
So this is Glenn from Wishbone Publishing,
which was an experience.
Yeah,
Glenn's gonna love a little
he's gonna
shout out.
love a little mention there, isn't he?
He's fabulous. I love him.
So it all took off from there then. So
do you know what? I just think it was fate.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason, and it just so happened to cut the right time, right place, and even my mindset was better than when, so much better than what it had been.
Yeah.
I was ready for it.
Yeah.
Well, we were chatting about this earlier, weren't we? About putting things out to the universe.
Yeah.
You get back what you put out there. So it's nice to see it actually living proof of that as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, since you've been published and out in galleries, your works seem to, it's kind of taken a journey from dark to light. Did you think that? Or
yes,
there are still some of those themes in there.
I slip a little bit of darkness in there.
Yeah, you can still see it. You can still see it, but there is.
I'm very much drawn to the dark beauty. I don't know why,
Keep getting
because
pulled
I'm
back
such a
into it.
smiley, happy person. But and every now and again I have to slip one in. But I think I'm thinking more of what people will love and a release for not just myself, but other people as well, which has brightened it up a little bit.
Yeah. So do you see that kind of, when you do shows like you did with us yesterday, do you see the joy that you bring to other people?
Absolutely.
And then you think, well, it's like a two-way thing sometimes, isn't
absolutely. You've got to give a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and due to tastes, really.
Yeah.
It's, I think that they've all got a bit of me in.
Yeah.
But it's a lot lighter and happier, I think.
I think because people ask me sometimes as an artist, they say, well, has your work changed? Like I just asked you, and are you kind of creating work now for the client? And is that because you've been commercial? But I think it's what we just said. And a lot of the time it's because you get feedback and you start to learn and know the clients, and you get feedback, and it's almost like a two-way street. So you
learn what
you get inspired by your client,
absolutely.
and you kind of inspired by the people that are buying your work, and you talk to them, you meet them, and it's
the
bigger
genuine
than yourself,
feedback, isn't it, as well? Whereas when you're just putting it out there for people to see, you don't necessarily take on board.
Yeah.
But when people are actually hanging pictures in their homes, which is a massive deal.
Yeah, it's not just in your head.
Yeah, it's not just or on my own wall.
It's locked away somewhere.
It's a big deal, and to make people smile and give them something to escape into. It's
because I've noticed that's such a big theme with your work is escapism and journeys and things like that, and that's what people really identify with. But a lot of people, what I love about your work is everybody interprets it in a completely different way. Not one person will have the same resonance or meaning behind it as the other. So I was kind of going to ask, do you create any work with a specific client in mind or a specific person in mind?
No. I literally, I think I'll get inspiration from all sorts of places, like films, poetry, song lyrics, an emotion, and I just think, how can I portray it in my way? And it's not till you do the shows that you start hearing all the different interpretations. And I just love that. It's even if they don't see it the same way I do.
Yeah.
It's for people to connect to it. It's I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So how does your process work then? So a photographer initially, so then you've developed this style and this process to create the pieces that you create. So you work with models, I presume.
Yeah, it's very different to how I first was working. I do composite work, which I'll take photographs of the models. I might take them in the location, I might not. I'll take pictures of locations, sometimes with the models, sometimes not. I can take pictures of the props that go in, and then it's digitally stitching all that together, digitally painting on the backgrounds, adding textures, sometimes printing them out, painting and adding textures, then photographing, so it's just layers and layers and layers to build it all together and to get it to, be cohesive. And
so it's all very multi-layers, and so you
some
could be
some a lot more complex than others. It depends. Sometimes I give myself headaches just thinking, how am I going to do this? Why did I start this? But yeah.
Do you have like a very specific outcome that you want each piece to look like, or do you just go with a kind of rough concept?
They build themselves. I have a rough idea, and then as the process goes on, I feel like they take a life of their own. And that's how they come together. Sometimes I've put bits together and it hasn't quite gone how I planned. Like this top picture with the aeroplanes weren't even going to be in there to start with. It was going to be something completely different.
Because that's almost like the central theme of the
so
globe
of the
aeroplanes.
I don't know if it's weird, but I feel like I was guided to do it a little bit different to how I originally thought. I feel like they've got a life of their own.
They almost dictate their own narrative.
Yes. Yeah.
And you put the building blocks in place and then let
the work flow, and then I'll get to a certain point and think, yes, that's how it should be.
That's quite unique though for photography, isn't it? Because usually with photography, I'm not speaking as a photographer, obviously, but I presume that concepts are very well thought out and props are managed and sets are all sourced.
Yeah, it's quite precise, and I will normally know what props are like you say, what symbolism I want in the picture, and what concepts exact. That doesn't always work out like that, and sometimes it turns into something completely different, which is surprising. But I always know the life. It's like they've got their own little path.
They're almost like little characters, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, we've noticed like you have a few kind of signature elements with your work. So like, for instance, with this piece, the models never have any shoes on, or they hide their faces. Why is that?
The hiding the faces and the walking away, I think, is one of my signature moves. And that was always because when I was photographing models, don't get me wrong, they're beautiful, but I felt like the picture was always about the model, about the person in. So, and I wanted a way for people to connect and be able to put themselves in the picture. And that was by taking the faces away. Because it could be anyone and it could be you.
Yeah.
And I just found that people absolutely connected so much easier when it was anonymous. And the bare feet is just loving the earth and being grounded and all things feminine and lovely. And
divine Mother Nature.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
And what about the butterflies and
the butterflies?
The birds.
Yeah, we spoke about this, didn't we? That I don't know, I've got a bit of an obsession with anything with wings.
Really?
Yeah, birds and butterflies especially, and butterflies represent transformation and growth. So, and I think that is like the journey a lot of the pictures are on. They're transforming into a different place, escaping from something else, almost surreal dream-like state. Of transformation. And the birds are just freedom. They represent freedom.
So it's so interesting when you actually get to chat with an artist and you go deeper into their psyche, because you learn so much more about the work as well, and
you understand it better, don't you?
It gives it so many more different meanings, and you're obviously so passionate about it as well. You can't help but look at everything in such a different way after we've spoken to you as well. So I love that.
So what about this new collection then, that we launched yesterday?
The new collection is, I don't know how it came about, but they're all on like a different journey, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. I was going to
they're
ask,
all very
was there a
different.
theme or
No,
just,
there really wasn't.
they're all
It just
individual stories?
it just happened like that.
Yeah.
It's like it was basically spring collection and very much spring in mind, and new beginnings and fresh places and escapes and adventures. And when you look at them, they're all going on a unique adventure.
Yeah. I love them as well, how, like we just said, each of them are so different, yet when you hang them all together in a display, they look so perfect
They
together.
could all go together.
Yeah.
I'm very easily bored. And so the fact that I can do completely different out there concepts keeps me interested,
Yeah.
because otherwise I wouldn't be doing
You'd
it.
get bored of it.
Yeah, I'd be bored. I'd be on to the next project.
Yeah.
The next craft, or what, the next thing I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is the longest I've stuck with something.
Really?
Oh my God.
So I found something.
You found the niche.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
you're meant to do it, because you're definitely very talented and you're very good at what
Thank
you do.
you.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very glad that you
You
managed to
stuck
push
to it.
yourself out there. So why has Dolly been left behind then? Because for anyone that doesn't know, that you did call yourself Dolly initially because you didn't want to.
I did, and we was going to just do the work under the name Dolly, but then my own name sort of had to be joined to it, because they're
Used
like,
as
well,
well.
who
And then
is this Dolly? And then now I've ended up with two names.
It's hard. I did notice that yesterday, because when you were signing the back of pictures, we signed loads of you
Because
signed.
I get confused, and I'm like, am I
Who
Dolly?
am I?
Am I Michelle?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It seemed like a little bit of a ball ache having to do sign things twice. You put Dolly
People
and then.
have said, "Oh, how many people have got two?" I was like, well, one's a nickname, one's the real one. I don't know. I'll
But
get him in the middle.
I feel like Michelle has kind of come out of your own confidence now, because you were saying.
Yes, Dolly was something I hid behind.
Hide behind. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
But now
I'm-
you
I'm quite comfortable.
feel
to
comfortable
have,
to put her
yeah,
on the
absolutely.
back shelf a little bit now, and they.
Yeah.
Someone said yesterday, they said, why are you putting Dolly Parton on the back of the picture? Do you remember?
I did. Yeah.
We had to explain that. 'Cause we never put Dolly up, did we? Because
yeah.
we always put Michelle Mackie up. And we didn't.
Michelle Mackie, the Scottish artist.
Yeah, we never used Dolly, did we?
Well, I've noticed that the brochures have just got Michelle Mackie on.
Yeah, there's
but
no Dolly anymore.
They did have Dolly to start with. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the Dolly's slipping away, maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
She's still there.
It's all
Yeah.
quite interesting actually, because your work's taking, or seems to be taking, a slightly different direction, or a brighter direction. And you're leaving this Dolly behind, and
With the
it's-
darkness
It all
on.
seems very
Maybe.
much like you're kind
Yeah,
of you're
it's a
being
little
that
bit of a
butterfly
journey.
yourself, and you're kind
Yeah.
of transforming into something what you're supposed to be.
I like that.
I do as well.
Self-expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so me.
It's almost as if it was all planned or something.
It just, honestly, some of them are such happy accidents.
Yeah.
That's so nice to hear, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That things just fall in
I
place
don't
together.
I don't always plan what it is, how it ends up.
Yeah.
It's which is nice.
It's
a-
organic.
It's a nice surprise for me as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think it is. It's organic. I think it's better like that sometimes when.
Well, sometimes you don't even know where it comes from, do you?
Yeah, you get a
And then
happy
it's-
accident.
And then it's not till afterwards you think, oh yeah, I know where that's come from now.
yeah.
You do that quite a bit as well, I found.
Yeah, I get distracted in the same way. Like I get, because my work as well, it does take quite a long time, from the same as yours you describing yesterday. It's not something that you can just quickly do in a day.
No.
And sometimes, do you find that you start off with that idea and you've got this dead set idea, and then because it takes so long to get to that at the end point, it changes so much.
Yeah.
In the journey from A to B. So yeah.
Yeah. It takes a life of its own.
Of its own, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you end up with not really what you planned, and what you did plan just didn't work out. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you got any plans for the future with your work? I know you've only literally just finished this collection, but have you?
Yeah,
got any
no
plans?
pressure.
What's next?
I've always got ideas spinning around in my busy little head. I have got a few actually that I am in the process of planning that are very creative.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to getting stuck into
That's interesting.
creative and messy, and I'm
Messy?
going to enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. So you're bringing in a bit of like.
We'll see. The models are not going to get off lightly, put it that way.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking, because I know you mentioned at the show yesterday that you do. We didn't. I don't know whether we discussed that actually, Jess, but where you sometimes paint over.
I do
paint
sometimes
over some of the images, then you reprocess them, and then.
That's it. I do
make the
sometimes add text, like I'll print them off and paint in the backgrounds and paint just to add in texture, and then process it again.
Yeah.
But no, not so much with that. More to do with the concept and my poor models.
Oh my God, I'm so intrigued
But
now.
but they know if it's, I'm at my best. We're either in my garden, getting the shots, or I'm in my happy place when I've got my wellies on and we're in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Getting dirty and getting it done.
Oh, you've made me very excited.
We'll wait
now.
to see these then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
can't
poor
wait.
models.
They love it. They love it.
That must be fun.
Yeah,
It's
I
better.
love
I
it.
suppose it's better than just being like stood still, isn't it? You get like involved in something. So
Yeah.
So brilliant. Thanks for coming down. And
Yeah,
thanks
thank
for
you
the show
so much
yesterday.
for coming, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
We
Yeah,
had
it's been amazing.
an amazing event with you yesterday. We're so proud that you're our first podcast guest as well.
Oh,
what an
exciting.
honour.
Very exciting.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you all very soon.
Yeah, brilliant.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.